Hey guys, welcome back to Dad Gizmo. Today I'm going to show you how I save thousands of dollars by making my own built-ins for my own house. Today our new project is that we are going to try to make some built-in cabinets, at least the bases today, around our fireplace for our built-ins. So our barn door turned out so well that we thought, what the heck, let's give this a try. Let's see if we can make our own base cabinets for this. But Sawyer and I are going to get this thing together and we'll see how this goes and we'll take you along for the journey. So we started off by going to Home Depot. We got ourselves 2 full sheets, 4x8 sheets of maple wood. That's 3/4 inches thick. So 3/4 inch thick maple plywood. So it's got a nice finish to it, as you can see. And we had them cut down, so I will put the measurements and everything that we cut them down to. But basically these are the standard cabinet height of 34.5 inches. That's the standard cabinet height. And the depth of them is 22.25 inch. So we did that. We're building out the bases today, and then we'll see how we go from here. Okay, first step is I took 2 sheets. I used some brackets to basically secure them really tight together. And I measured toe kicks, toe cutouts. So the toe cutouts are 5 inches up, 2.5 inches across. I basically went into my kitchen and I measured what our kitchen ones were, and I mimicked them with these cabinets. So 5 inches up, 2.5 inches across, that's my toe kick for it. And now we're gonna start securing in the bottom shelf and then the brackets for the top and the front of it to get basically the frame or the shell taken care of being built. Is I cut 2 boards that I call my toe kicks, which basically I wanted to secure. Hold this shelf for me, bud. There we go. I wanted to secure here, like this. So I wanted to secure it there like that with a wood clamp. So this way, I know that the height of the top and the bottom should be level, and then I'll check the leveling of it as well. So this is what I did for this one, and then I'm just gonna secure it on there like that. Slide it out a little bit for me, bud. There we go. That's my toe kick for this side, and then I made another toe kick to put on the other side. So that way I know when I'm actually connecting everything that I should be the same, and then when I do my second piece of this, I'll do the exact same thing. So I know I've got the exact, there you go. And then the board will lay right across the top of those 2 things if I get them completely in the right spot. And then we should have our shelf completely perfect on both right and left side. All right, so we got 1 skeleton of a cabinet built. As you can see, it's pretty good. It's exactly the dimensions we need it to be. Sawyer did a nice job of we pre-drilled all the holes in the sides, and we countersunk them. The wood's a little bit soft because it's just maple plywood, so it's a little soft. So it's enough that it sinks them on the side. And we didn't have to worry about the screw holes on the sides here because this is going to fit into a cutout around our fireplace, so we didn't have to worry about them. So we just countersunk them just a little bit, just so they didn't get in our way, as you can see there. And we have 1 frame done.
And we have 4 to go.
We got 3 to go.
3 to go.
Build 4 together, all together.
Yep.
Okay, so here's where we're at. We made 2 cabinets. We made the left and the right cabinet here exactly the same, right? Got them all in here. We took out the baseboards, so we're at really the point of no return because I ripped all that stuff out. So that's gone. So now what we have is we wanted to make sure the measurements from front to back, we didn't want to have any gapping behind things where things could fall back there. So we had to take all the baseboards out to make that happen. So now if you look, our depth and everything is perfect. It's right on. So when we do our overhang for our counter, we're going to have it overhang just a little bit. So you'll have just a little bit of difference there. And then once we get this done, we'll put in a middle shelf on both sides. And we'll put a top on it, and we'll put screws in to anchor it into the wall to make sure that we're good and solid into the wall. All right, so I have all of the skeletons of the cabinets built, but we wanted to have a middle shelf in them. So basically on the inside, it's about 28 3/4 from the base up to the top of it. So it's 28 3/4, and across it is about 26. So we're gonna cut some shelves in here that are 26 wide, but we also wanted to measure from front to back, because we don't want these shelves to actually hit the door, and we want to put a little piece of trim on it, because you can see on the front of this how rough that is. We want to put a little piece of trim on there to make it look like more of a finished touch. So we don't want this to quite go to the front, so we actually cut our shelves down to be about 21 3/4. That way when we put them in, we'll put them up against the back so they're flush, up against the wall so nothing can fall behind them. But on the front, we'll put that little piece of trim on the front. And then it won't quite touch the door when the doors come and they shut, but it'll be almost to the end. And again, because you're not gonna see any of these side pieces, which is kind of a shame because the wood looks pretty darn nice. We're just gonna measure. We're gonna measure 13 down. We want the top shelf to be a little bit smaller than the bottom shelf. So we're gonna measure 13 down from this side, and we're gonna measure, we'll put a line here, and we'll put screws right through the side because we'll get more stability from it if we put 3 screws across each side of the middle shelf. You could make these adjustable if you want. Craig makes a piece that will allow you to adjust up and down. You could drill like 6 holes up and down if you want to adjust these shelves. We never ever adjust those shelves. So we've had them in a previous house, we never did it. We're just gonna put in a good fixed solid shelf in here and call it a day. So we're gonna do that on all 4. We started using nail gun. See if this works. Okay, so now what we're doing is you can see that this is it's obviously like a plywood, right? Where it's got a good coat on the outside of it. So what we're doing is we're putting a front face on it. This is just pine. It's premier pine wood. We're putting a face on it, and you can see we're using a nail gun to do it. Some of the instructions call for using a Craig drill bit and drilling through the back of it so you don't see any of the marks, don't see anything, but we're painting this anyway. So for us, these 16 gauge nails are gonna hold it in a lot tighter. Plus it allows us to kind of cut and fit and then nail as we go. And so that's what we're doing. So we're cutting, fitting, and making sure everything is completely nice and tight on there. And then we're throwing 3 or 4 16 gauge nails into it. Your nailers lined up. Make sure you're flush on the bottom so it looks like you have a nice tight corner. And that's 2 framed. Then when we're done with this, we can patch these things out here. We'll probably put a little patch on them just to get them patched up out here so we can do most of our sanding out here. Once we do that, we have one other thing that we want to do. This looks kind of ugly on our shelves. This looks kind of ugly. We're probably going to get a small piece of wood that looks, I mean obviously this is just a cut off piece, but it has a nice edge to it. And then we'll put that over there. We'll get a nice thin piece, put it over there, tack a couple things into it, make sure it's nice and flush. So you cover up this ugliness. So we got one little piece of trim work here that just was kind of finishing it off, and we did the same thing on the sides. So I went and I bought this piece of toe kick because I want this to basically cover it once it was put in and the built-ins were actually completed. And then we built, out of the same wood, we built the top for the cabinets. So again, it's very smooth wood. So as you look at it, you can see it's very smooth. It's easily paintable wood. So we built the top to it, and I didn't have to worry about these side pieces, so I didn't do anything fancy with the side pieces, but I used the same trim work across the top and just made it look like it was one solid piece across here. So it gave it a nice finished look from front to back. So that's all we did to build the built-in cabinets, was those easy steps. It's extremely easy. The biggest part is just getting your cuts done right, making sure you measure twice, cut it once, because I did make some mistakes there. But once you do that, you have your cabinets, they're pretty much built. All you have to really do is paint them. Okay, as you can see, I did my cutout. As you can see, I did my toe kick. So I did those 2 things like I mentioned before. And you can see this is a single cabinet right over on the left side and a single cabinet on the right side. So I use the same wood like I mentioned. Use the wood, and these are the trim pieces that I put on, right? So these are just 1 by 2 by 6 foot length pine, select pine. They're about $6 to $7 per piece. And it only really took maybe a few pieces for each of these cabinets to be built. Then, so that's really the bottom cabinets is that. And then this top piece is, again, it's the same maple finish 3/4 inch thick that we cut out of a 4 by 8 sheet. And this top piece is the same wood. And again, use the same trim piece to actually just finish the front look of it so it's nice and smooth across the finish. So that's really the bottom base cabinets. And that's and then we primed them and painted them. The only other piece that we added is, you can see this front face was going to be pretty ugly because of where you'd see the basically the unfinished piece of wood. So we got one little piece of trim work here that just was kind of finishing it off, and we did the same thing on the sides. So you know, if there's a little bit of a gap, you want to basically be able to get your cabinets in there. So once you get them in there, you have a little bit of a gap, and you want it to look like a solid piece where there's no gapping there. These little pieces of trim work are really nice because they bend into place really easy, and they're nice and paintable as well, just pine. Okay, the shelves were the same way, but we needed a way to actually secure them to the wall. So we used the small, same 1x2 inch pine wood, and we basically made a frame around the outside of it. And so the whole thing is kind of framed out on the outside except for this front face, which isn't, right? And we used a little bit thicker, which is the 1x3 piece of pine across the front. And again, I did that for two reasons. One is it kind of hides the underneath where we're connecting it to the wall. And then I just built the shelves out. So I built two shelves for this out of the same wood. And then I secured it to the wall where I found studs. And then I just used wood filler to basically fill it in, sand it smooth, so it looks like it has real no connection to it. And they're nice and stable, secured to the wall. So that's really what the shelves are. That's it. There's nothing really fancy to them. Each shelf probably is about, I want to say probably about 25 bucks, maybe 20 bucks. So 20 bucks, 40 bucks in shelves for each one, which is not bad. So did that. And then the last thing I did was, this was a cutout, right? So it was just kind of an empty drywall space. And I wanted it to look like these were kind of built in, like there were solid cabinets built in. So I literally took and cut pieces of pine and just secured them. So it looked like they were actually pieces that were running straight through, all the way through each one. So this looks like one solid piece that's been kind of tapped into by these front pieces, but they're really single cutouts. So this is one piece, two piece, three piece. And I just did that, and I nailed them into the bottom, and so it looks like it's one solid cabinet all the way through, and it goes all the way to the top. Primed everything, sanded everything, puttied every nail hole and screw hole, and made sure it was all sanded down, and then painted this gray finish, which is a satin finish, so it has a little bit of a shine to it, and it's a little bit more durable than a flat finish, so when you're setting stuff on it, it shouldn't mark up that easy. So this total project with what you see right here with the two cabinets, the shelving on each side, was probably about $150 to $160 total in wooden materials. So it's probably about that. And then the doors, again, were probably 80 bucks total. So the total project, if you just add in all the little incidentals, maybe $380, $400 you have by built-ins completed. I was getting price quotes for anywhere between $3,000 and $4,000 to just do the bottom, not to do the shelving, not to paint it the color I wanted, any of that stuff. So there's a huge cost savings to doing it on your own, so give it a shot. The worst thing you can do is rip it out. So if you like this video, you like what we did, you do your own projects, send them to us, give us a thumbs up, and like and subscribe to us. Thanks, bye.